this is coming straight from Reuters. I think, what do they got? Some sort of truthiness index over there. I heard they're good. Elon Musk's Neuralink wins FDA approval for human study of brain implants. So if you read down, May 25th, Reuters, yada, yada, Neuralink, FDA approval. Let's get down to the interesting stuff. Neuralink tweets about it. They got the FDA's approval. And then down here, now Musk did not respond to Reuters' request for comment. They say that twice in this article, okay? And here's why. Neuralink employees told Reuters last year that the company was rushing and botching surgeries on monkeys, pigs, sheep, resulting in more animal deaths than necessary, as Musk pressured the staff to receive FDA approval. So that's kind of concerning. In one instance, in 2021, the company implanted 25 out of 60 pigs with the wrong size devices. The pigs were all subsequently killed. Now, I'm sure that's not going to happen in the human trials, everybody. They worked out what size device goes where, right?
Just like they did with the COVID-19 vaccine. You know, they had such incredible trials for those. You have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude. And they keep using the word probing.
Probing. It's like, are they aliens? Do they have like orange slices and like, you know, orange pudding or something?
Look, let me do Control F.
Let's think of what's the Rosetta Stone from Tool, you know.
Probing. Oh, there's only one probe. One. I thought right here there was 2 of 5. I was like, oh, but that could be problem too. All right, so we're gonna cross out that link. Maybe they didn't use it overly in this article. Maybe. Oh, look, there's another probe. They did. See, that's my point. Here, look, the probe. The probe. It's like Fantasy Island for Neuralink over there. Elon Musk.
A bunch of fucking
weirdo
brain boyers.
Yeah, the other part that struck me about this, let's see. Again, neither Musk nor Neuralink responded to multiple requests, but they got employees on the record, right? So they got all these probes about, rushing experiments, which is concerning, but it's also interesting the angle that Reuters is taking against Musk.
It's interesting also, like, are they testing just implanting it? Are they going to test like removing these devices? Is it just like, is it just to see if they can get it in and the person survives? Like, I'm curious as to like what type of, to be approved for
10 patients,
human trials typically has to have some sort of success rate. And phase 2, was it phase 2 trials, I believe, when you're working with animals? It's been a long time since I researched, I believe so. You have to have almost 100% success rate with phase 2 trials. I think you can't not have your animals dying before you move on to humans, unless you pay the regulators, probably. So,
well, how did it work in COVID? Oh, they just skipped that part.
They skipped it.
They just
called it an emergency, and they skipped it.
So now on our standards at the bottom of this article, I'm going to click this link. I'm going to open this page here. Let's see where it goes to. Oh, the Rothschild Archive. They must want me to search the archive timeline, right? Where's the timeline, collections, the exhibition? Oh, the timeline. Now, if we go to the timeline, we use that Control F again. Let's see if this works, Tony. And we do Reuters.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Well, you just saw Forbes. Forbes is Boston Brahmin, everyone. Let's see about Reuters here.
Oh, it doesn't. It won't let me search because of how they.
No, you have to open it up.
So I'm going to do it by. Let's do it by memory. Let's go.
Forbes would have been
right around
really that far back.
Yeah,
I was thinking like late 19th century, not early.
No. It's right here somewhere. I'll remember, unless they took it out.
I don't think.
See, so the text search won't search the drop downs.
I think I can help. Let me see. Forbes.
I'm going too late. There's a lot of history here in this timeline. Okay, so it was after they did the insurance company, and it was around the time the carrier pigeon. Ceylon tea, that's just the opium wars. Don't worry about that. Solomon's Rothschild, that's mining. This one is that. Irish famine. Nope. Viennese house. Did they edit this page? We're going to have to go back in the time machine now for real. 46. Oh, right here. Efficient communications were essential to the Rothschild early business success. A letter dated circa 1846 from the Nathaniel Rothschild to his brothers refers to their use of pigeons. I hope our feathered messengers will have brought you in due time our good prices. Right. So they in 1846, sorry, got so excited. 1846, they're using carrier pigeons still, right?
Yep.
But by 1852, right around the time when they're working with the refinery, we have the Reuters connection. So let me go. That's meant more towers. That's the hospital. Advisors, because Reuters ended up working with Queen Victoria and the Rothschilds. This is the Royal Mint. Oh, I'm looking bad on my photographic memory right now. There is a Reuters reference, and it's
No,
not
for
just
sure.
the
I remember this
pigeons,
too. I just thought it was later,
not just the
19th
pigeons, but
century.
someone out there is getting a.
This is so much. I have to go through each one.
You're getting an executive overview of what's available here. All right, I'm gonna look
Let's
for it
try a
during the
different
next break
way.
because
Yeah.
it's there. I just need to figure out why I'm not remembering what year it was. I thought it was before the 1860s, but I will continue to check. And
Yeah, you're right. It's
that
mid
is not what's really
1800s.
linked. It's not
Judge
what's really linked right here. Okay, I was just making fun because Reuters been working with the Rothschilds for a long time. Oh, communication here. Let's see.
It's around the 1850s. Should
No,
be.
right
So
there. Should be
you were
after
right.
that.
Hold on. Let me get archive.
1851 Mentmore Towers. Right here, advisors. Okay, right here. Rothschild correspondence. So they were using carrier pigeons, and it was Queen Victoria and Albert, right? They get with Reuters when the telegraph comes around. So it's going to be one of these entries right here. So this basically says Queen Victoria made regular use of the Rothschild courier service for her overseas correspondence, describing it as perfectly safe and very quick, right? So they have their correspondence network, and that starts to go obsolete when they bring around the telegraph, and it's in one of these little drop downs. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to read them because you can't search them or assume that just what's in that drop down is just about that one thing, because oftentimes it leads into other pieces of history. And that's not it. All right.
Yeah, it should be a mid 19th century. I found another reference that just loosely references to their first establishment being around the mid 19 or 1800s.
Right.
So you were right. You're it's just finding the specifics.
Yeah, I got to find the specific place in their timeline where I saw it before that they may have changed it. However, the fact holds true. I will bring it to bear in due time. Now I have set something that sets that mysterious je ne sais quoi of Alfred Hitchcock. Right now, you guys don't know. There's a mystery. I'm going to find this missing piece. There's a blank to be filled in. Is that point? All right, so let's go to
I
the.
want to make one real
Go ahead.
quick, if I can, just for one
Oh,
real
cover
quick
me,
comment.
Goose. Let's see.
And this is a point that Jeremy was making, is that this is actually a ominous situations, because misgendering is actually illegal in a number of countries, including Canada. Obviously, Bill C-16, the adoption of the what is it, the Human Rights Declaration by the UN. Anyways, that's a whole situation. But anyways, since that happened, Canada, for example, there's laws in the books against misgendering. Not sure in the UK, but it wouldn't surprise me necessarily in other nations that have gone full woke, especially Western European nations. So Twitter is an international company. So there's multiple avenues here. It's like, what's scary is if you're an international company, it's a platform for free speech. A platform for speech, and it's really the new town square. In America, we recognize that is supposed to be protected under the First Amendment, should be, but other nations don't. So does that mean that you have to have a situation where there's a cutout for Twitter just for America, but then Americans can't interact with other international people unless they abide by the laws of the international nation, international governments? It sets up a precedent, in other words, that businesses are capitulating to other governments that have more stringent, prescriptive, tyrannical, despotic laws on the books, regardless of the laws out of which they're operating, in this case out of America, for example. It just sets a very disconcerting precedent, because they see themselves as sort of supranational, so they have to sort of kowtow somehow, to everyone. And by the only way you do that is by capitulating, to the laws of all these various nations, until you get to a point where you can barely say anything or offend anyone. It seems like it's just obnoxious and absurd. It sets a very disconcerting precedent, especially for media companies that are international. And that's the pressure being put on them, not just from leftist forces in America, but certainly, from first world nations and countries around the world, has been immense and problematic as far as revenue is concerned. Then there's the issue as well of money. He's trying to make it profitable, but it seems like all these major corporations that spend major advertising revenue, they they've adopted woke agendas. So it becomes one of these situations where it's caught between a rock and a hard place, I guess.
Between a rock and a hard place. All right, so I'm going to take an L on finding that in the timeline. I've tried valiantly, but it's sometime in between when they.
Book, maybe?
Well, I have other references, but I remember seeing it in the timeline. So it's right between the House of Rothschild rescuing the Bank of England and the House of Rothschild taking over the Royal Mint Refinery. I remember it was in there somewhere. So I'm gonna look. Maybe I'll even put my glasses on. I'm getting serious about this.
This is for Reuters, right? The connection to Reuters or Forbes?
Well, Reuters was the connection.
Yeah, Forbes is the Boston province. Sorry, that's
right.
Okay.
Yeah, Forbes is a different thing. But Reuters specifically started working with the Rothschilds because they had worked out telegraph service, and the Rothschilds had pigeon and they wanted telegraph. They started working together, and I have multiple references from other sources, but it used to be on their own official timeline.
Here's from the Rothschild Archive.
Oh, maybe that's where it was on a different page, but not in the timeline when you have to break into all these things and read them.
Pigeon Post, Telegraphic Code, 1850s. Paul Julius Reuter approached the Rothschilds in London. Here we go.
Vindicated. Thank you, Tony.
Yep, absolutely. Telegraphic Code. This comes from, let me go down one here. This comes from the Rothschild Archive. Let me just put this on one single tab. So we are still on the Rothschild Archive, just not on the timeline. This is something that was posted under Treasure of the Month. This is back, February 2019. Telegraphic Code Book, South American Business from 1909 to 1938. And here's the sort of the synopsis. Treasure of the Month. The collections of the Rothschild Archive, London, contain over 2 million pieces of paper, volumes, files, photographs, artifacts, and artworks. Each month, the archivists will highlight a particular treasure from the collection. I see. The archivists, yeah, they're okay.
Bro, they don't have any influence on your society, our society, British society, but they got 2 million pieces in their archive that's being run over there by the government.
And let's see which one they've decided to feature February in 2019, these archivists. In today's fast-moving business environment, rapid access to accurate intelligence is critical.
It wasn't back then, though, right? It's just a recent thing that they have this need, right?
Courier pigeons,
What was David de Rothschild doing during the pandemic, Tony? What was that called?
Oh yeah, he's doing the track
Stepwise.
Yeah, it's the whole trace track database thing he's got,
which was tracking people's COVID data.
Correct. And he was the hippie. He was the one that was first about saving the planet, carbon, polar bears, sail my little plastic boat, or something like that.
Predict-wise. Sorry, just being accurate for the record. He's on the board of directors. David de Rothschild, the Green Jesus.
Yeah,
the Green Jesus. The Green Jesus. That's a joke for later. He's the Green Jesus.
He's the Green Jesus,
later.
And he has his angle. He has his angles by which he, he forms his world. He measures out his world. Like the Masons do. Anyways, this continues here. It says, protecting our information assets and the data entrusted to us by our clients and partners is the responsibility of us all. And the digital age system, blah, blah. So basically, they're saying they're uploading all these archives to the internet. Letters. Let's just go down. This is be careful with letters here because people are curious to know whether we have any secrets. This is Karl Rothschild to his brother Solomon. Solomon and Nathan, written from Berlin. This is December 10th, 1816. The 5 sons, and it gets in blah, blah, blah. So let's go to the Pigeon Post. This is where this reference, Telegraphic Code. I'm sorry.
People say, first off, they say this is conspiracy theory. They say it's anti-Semitism. Like, you're not supposed to know about the Pigeon Post and the early
anti-Semitism is a form of hate speech, right? Even though it's a truth, that's the way it's been appropriated. So, like, you can't talk about it. That's
if they hate the truth, then the truth becomes hate speech. I don't know what to say about that. It's not my problem.
Yeah, because their feelings get hurt or something. When did it all become based on one's feelings, not based on one's? I thought we're supposed to steel ourselves against those words. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words will never hurt me. Well, cliche. I think that was what I'd hear when I was like 5 years old. Something like that. Anyways,
unless they tell you that you're woke, then they hurt you a lot.
Well, then they teach you to be a victim, and then you're in a mindset where everything is always done to you. You are the unfortunate circumstances of a world outside of your control. And then you become a nihilist, you become a determinist, you become someone who feels like they have no agency, and they that creates a situation.
And then when you say watch out for that car, they say I don't like your tone of voice, and then the problem solves itself.
Facts, actually, very big
facts.
Telegraphic Code. Let's go to this. Is where the reference comes in. In 1850, Paul Julius Reuter approached the Rothschilds in London, seeking them as a client for a new service he was developing
I'll
to speed
bet.
information across Europe with the latest technology. Within months, Reuters had moved to London and set up in offices only 2 minutes from St. Swithin's Lane.
Where
And
they
then
set the price of gold every day. No, I'm sorry, that
well,
was
they
Newcourt. There's so many places in this
Yeah.
story. Sorry.
That's right. And then Rothschild and Sons became early and effective patrons of Reuters Telegraph, using it to send coded messages to and from their agents and counterparties around the world. A new generation. I mean, they even use the word agents and counterparties.
It was
A new-
Tor before Tor, everybody. All right.
Yeah. That's right. The internet before the internet. A new generation and definition of speed had arrived. The first telegraphic codes were developed shortly after the advent of the telegraph and spread rapidly. By 1854, 1/8 of telegrams transmitted between New York and New Orleans were written in code. Code was used to say, so it's talking about the ways in which they would make sure that other people weren't aware of like this how they're coding their messages, in other words, and how other people would do the same thing, I guess. But that's in other words, Paul Julius Reuter approached the Rothschilds in 1850 and and basically got them on board with this idea of being able to have this very fast telegraph system. And they adopted it and formed a very meaningful partnership. And what's today? We get AP and Reuters. That's where all the news for the mainstream media comes from. Two organizations.
Official news.
Yeah.
Trusted,
Reuters and AP.
safe and effective news.
Safe indeed.
So that's interesting how they put it, because really PJ Reuter might have been working on his telegraph, and then he gets at the door.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
so
it's
how
like
they
if someone
present
invents
it,
like a free energy machine, they're
like, we got a monopoly on the fastest forms of communication, bro. You're not allowed to have that, right?
Yeah.
Just like if you develop Silk Road, they might.
Yeah.
Hey, we can't have that. We have a monopoly on the narco-terrorism and drug training and all whatever else they thought was going on out there, right?
Exactly.
Here's another aspect of this. 1834, N.M. Rothschild appointed bankers to the United States and Europe. So anything America is doing in Europe, they're funding it over there, right? So that's interesting. N.M. Rothschild became banker to the United States government in Europe. In which capacity? The firm, N.M. Rothschild, purchased the government's claim to the legacy of James Smithson, leading to the foundation of the Smithsonian Institute. Did you know that they founded the Smithsonian in DC? That big famous museum where everyone takes their kids to see all the history of America? That's an interesting little fact right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Smithsonian. Did they ever do any global warming research or climate change, climate control research? Let me look. I just seem to recall this thing about, let me just type in Smithsonian over here in the history blueprint. Smithsonian magazine. No. Weather modification.
Life on a sustainable planet.
Oh, look at this. Weather modification in Smithsonian. They got a whole bunch of this stuff back in the day. 1946. Right? They're doing weather modification in the Soviet Union. This is a Smithsonian magazine. Right? Weather control is a cold weapon war by the people who brought you the Cold War in the first place. That's interesting. Cloud seeding study suggests we could boost rain by 15%. These sort of
what
things
we do now in like those artificial islands outside Dubai.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Weather modification experiments from the 1940s forward. There's a lot of that Smithsonian type stuff. So that's interesting. Now we know who funded that aspect of Smithsonian history. But soon thereafter, when is Andy Jackson president? Before or after 1834? Because he allegedly beat
killed
the bank. Right?
Yeah. And I was thinking about going back through that old.
However, on the flip side,
yeah,
in
1829 to
Rothschild
1837,
they had a picture of Andy Jackson, a painting, a portrait of him hanging on the wall. So these types of things are sometimes incongruent with the stories we're told about history. Like, is he enemy number one, or is it because he's your best client, Andy Jackson? I don't know.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.